Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to go over a Valentine's Day compilation. For a lot of you guys that want some resources just in one video, it's going to be a compilation of the things that I think might help for individuals who are interested in understanding more about love and avoidance. I want to clarify and solidify the true meaning and nature of the relationship you have with an avoidant. This will apply to both male and female, fearful and dismissive. Anything specific towards gender or either attachment style, I will specify. But first, I want to talk about why avoidants don't label relationships or why they friend zone you even if they love you. Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology, and today I wanted to go over why avoidants don't like to label a relationship. Now, a lot of individuals have asked me this, so this was requested, and I'm going to try and touch a lot of points. However, this topic is pretty extensive and detailed, so I may have to make a couple more videos about this topic because I understand that you guys will still have questions. A lot of avoidant individuals will be in a long-term situation that is pretty much exclusive and literally a relationship, but they just will not label it. Some avoidants, especially after many years from when I've been working, I have patients I've worked with for years, actually. Some I've even had since I was an intern. So I've seen a lot of, lengthy lives. And what I notice with avoidants who are in long-term relationships that they don't label, they eventually begin more comfortable labeling. So in the beginning of the relationship, a lot of them, not all of them, but they tend to be comfortable with being exclusive. Some avoidants, especially dismissive avoidants who are very direct. There are some dismissive avoidants who are really, really direct, right? They're very guarded, but once they pick you, they pick you. They're still not comfortable with the label, but they typically demand exclusivity almost right away. And that can be a little bit unique. Not everybody's like that, but avoidants tend to be, not all of them, but avoidant individuals, they expect loyalty on both sides. Not all of them, but some of them. And so exclusivity tends to be one of the first steps. However, labeling a relationship, avoidant individuals are very apprehensive about label because in their mind, they take it very seriously. So often what I notice is there's a transition. It starts with exclusivity and later they may say it's like a situationship or it's like a romantic, whatever they want to say. And slowly, maybe over the course of, sometimes it takes years, they may call it the word a relationship. We're in a relationship, but they just don't use the word girlfriend and boyfriend. And girlfriend and boyfriend, that may happen a little bit later. They're very slow and very cautious, but that doesn't mean that if you're in a relationship that literally looks like a relationship, but they don't label it, it doesn't mean that there's no hope and that it won't end in marriage. It tends to, if I'm being honest. Not all the time, but it tends to. And that's very important to recognize, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about why this happens. Avoidants are very guarded. Many, once they give themselves to a relationship, fall very, very hard. A lot of them do. And many avoidants, not all, but quite a bit of them have been burned before by this behavior, whether it's in friendships, whether it's in communication in school, whether it's in previous relationships. They give their heart with 110%. They do that with a lot of things. Avoidant individuals, I mentioned before, a lot of them work really hard. So they give their heart and soul to whatever they love, right? And so that's why they're extremely cautious, because when they let someone in, they really let them in. Subconsciously, by labeling a relationship, they feel like they're letting you know that they're attached to you. There's a part of them that feels like if they don't label it, they have a little bit of power. It's subconscious, so they're not doing it on purpose, but they're hiding away so that basically you don't stomp on their heart, basically, right? Now, this is usually the reason if they're very much a true avoidant. If they're not, and they're just somebody who's not interested in you, that might not be the reason. But for an actual avoidant, this is typically a reason. Now, it's normally very triggering for their partner if an avoidant says that they don't want to label. But it's very important to recognize that if they genuinely are a real avoidant, it has nothing to do with you. And it's important to not let their denial, because they're in denial that it's a relationship, don't let that scare you, because what ends up happening is you feed to it. Remain neutral. Your response should remain neutral. I know it's hard, but if they say they're not, they don't want a relationship, but basically they still want you. So basically it's like a relationship, but they don't label it as boyfriend and girlfriend. I know that a lot of people think that's not a good situation, but for an avoidant individual, that is truly a sign that they're opening up to you. They're not using you if they're doing that. So you can mention that you'd prefer a label, but you understand that they're not that type of person. But it's important to inwardly trust yourself more, because what happens with a lot of individuals, they trust the other person more. You think, which I understand because you're trying to protect yourself, some individuals who are with an avoidant, they think the avoidant individual is all-seeing, knows everything, because they tend to be the more confident one, especially if they're with an anxious partner and your partner's dismissive avoidant. Dismissive avoidants don't struggle with self-esteem outwardly. Anxious individuals do. So both the dismissive avoidant and the anxious partner trust the avoidant, but that doesn't always help, because the avoidant individual makes a lot of mistakes, and it's true. And avoidance, if you are listening, why not you try and pay attention to a lot of times when you said something in your past where you said, I'm never going to do this, and then you do it. I work with a lot of avoidants. I cannot begin to count how many times that happens. Avoidant individuals, they do that a lot. And so I never am going to get married. We're never going to be boyfriend and girlfriend. Doesn't always work that way. I understand that you can be cautious, and if you don't want to be with them because you feel like they can't give you something, now talking to the anxious partner, I understand if you want to leave. However, I'm going to tell you, a lot of times they'll say they don't want to label, and then down the line they will. And so if you really believe that your partner will be more flexible about that one day, trust yourself. If you are exclusive, if you're texting daily, for the most part, seeing each other regularly, and you've been together for years, I'm going to break it to you, and sorry if you're an avoidant partner, not going to like this, but you're likely in a relationship. Whether or not they can accept it is different, but that doesn't diminish the reality of the situation. The avoidant individual, they're in their head a lot. Just because they're saying it's not a relationship, they're labeling it that way, we're not boyfriend and girlfriend, doesn't mean the reality of this is still what a relationship defines. Whether they want to admit it or not, that's on them. But if you're the partner, you can't live into that delusion as well. It's not healthy. It probably is a relationship if you're seeing those signs, okay? The next one, why they don't label a relationship, is they're afraid to disappoint you. So a lot of times avoidant individuals feel this way, and I don't blame them because it happens. They feel like if they have a label in a relationship, their partner will have an increased expectation. And that means that there's an increased likelihood of disappointment, right? And so it's important that if you are the avoidant, it's important to recognize that you will disappoint your partner, but your partner will disappoint you as well. So both you should be listening to this. It happens to couples all the time, and it doesn't mean the relationship will fail. Disappointment is part of relationships. And as the partner, you can show that you accept disappointment without criticism towards your partner. So if you do feel disappointed, don't crash out, don't get upset. Show them, okay, I am disappointed, but I appreciate you telling me. I appreciate that this is, where we are, but let's work with what we have. Let's try and see how we can make it work, right? It helps your partner to realize this is a safe space for them, and they feel safe being honest with you, and they're more likely to be more comfortable disappointing you. Sounds really weird, but as they become more comfortable disappointing you, they're going to be more comfortable giving themselves to you, which includes labeling a relationship. I know it's a little backwards, but that's usually how it works with avoidance, okay? And the last reason why they don't label a relationship is they want to label it only when they're 100% sure, 110% sure, right? They want to make absolute sure. Many avoidants, as I've mentioned before, are extremely loyal when they commit, and they will give their heart to you and everything. They will give you everything. They will give you the shirt off their back, even if it's snowing outside. A lot of avoidants will do that. To this day, if you're in a relationship with an avoidant, you can understand this. Like, they may not be the most affectionate person, but they will drive through snow and thunderstorms to change your tire for you. A lot of avoidants will do that for you. And they don't require anything. They're just like that, right? And so if your avoidant partner gives you as much as they can give you, and they're trying to change, my recommendation is, and I'm not telling you to do this, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying I've noticed that this helps with some patients. So I'm not even going to say it's a recommendation. I notice this happens because I don't want you guys to take this as me telling you to stay with somebody who's going to hurt you. I'm not saying that. It's your decision. However, I'm saying sometimes what ends up happening is if you remain patient and you see your partner opening up, maybe trusting the process might be beneficial for you. And you can always leave whenever you want. If you feel unhappy or like you're not getting what you deserve, You can go find a partner that's going to get you what you need. Why stay with an avoidant if it's not going to help you? Especially if you're anxious, it can be a rough relationship. However, if you love your partner and you're seeing progress and you do like it, it can really help. It can really help, right? And I want to mention another thing. A lot of anxious individuals, particularly anxious, but I see this fearful too, they will complain about their partner, but they don't leave their partner. And that situation only makes for a more likelihood that your avoidant partner will leave or discard you or exit, right? Because the partner feels unhappy and they know you're unhappy and they don't know how to fix it, but you're also not budging either. And so let me give an example. Have you ever had a friend, which I think a lot of people have, where they constantly complain about their job and they always say they're going to quit, but they never do, right? So it's not a perfect example, but what ends up happening is you start recognizing that, you know, that buddy that's telling you that is saying that, but they don't actually mean it. And this is how anxious individuals feel about when they protest and when they behave. But that's also how avoidant individuals, I know it's going to sound a little confusing, and I probably will have to make a follow-up video on this, but that's actually also how avoidant individuals feel about a label, okay? It's not a perfect example, but I'm going to try and explain it. An avoidant individual is constantly saying, this is not a relationship. They're saying something, but the actuality is that it is, and they do like it and they do care about it. It's hard. It's really hard to grasp, but that's actually what avoidants are doing. Anxious individuals do something on the flip side. They're always saying, I'm going to leave. I don't like my partner. Avoidants are terrible, X, Y, and Z, but they're still staying with their partner. That's how anxious individuals do it. You have to understand that insecure individuals, they cannot regulate their emotions. No matter who you are, if you're insecurely attached, regulation, behavior, it's very discontinued. It's disjointed. It doesn't always connect as cleanly as a secure individual, which if a secure individual says, you know what, I'm not happy in this relationship, you know in a couple weeks, they're probably going to leave. That's not the same with insecure individuals. They don't always click that same way. And you see that with anxious individuals, but avoidant individuals are like this too. Avoidant individuals are saying this is not a relationship, but in fact it is. They're just that it doesn't click, right? They are wounded individuals as well. Don't think of them as somebody who is thinking secure all the time. They may not say it's a relationship, but it is. They are attached to you. They might not say it, and I'm not telling you to say this directly to your avoidant partner, but it's just important to keep that in mind. Avoidants tend to speak through their wounds, and they don't have a lot of self-awareness. It's important to not fall under this denial as well. It doesn't mean don't be cautious, but be aware of both sides. Don't pretend like the avoidant is a secure person. They are not. Just like you are likely anxious or fearful, leaning anxious. I see this with anxious individuals all the time. You say things you don't mean. So do avoidants. Nobody is perfect. Even secure individuals do this, but it's not as common. But it's very important to recognize you can't trip over the little stuff, even the big stuff, right? If they step out of the relationship, that's a different thing. But if they're, picking about words and semantics, I don't know if that is entirely worth something to be upset over if the relationship is healthy. Now it's up to you to decide. So I'm not telling you that you shouldn't stay or that you should. I'm not telling you what to do, but I am saying this is probably information that somebody might like. And I'm sorry if it's offensive. I truly am. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because honestly, I could go on and on about this and it will just get more confusing. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. I work with a lot of individuals who are avoidantly attached, both fearful and dismissive, but typically if they are fearful/disorganized, they tend to be leaning dismissive, okay? I work with families, individuals, and couples, mainly couples and individuals, but I do work with families sometimes. So I see a lot of different variables and patterns with these individuals. And today I wanted to go over a topic that comes up a lot and has been brought up many times in my comment section, and just in general, I see it with so many couples. Why avoidants don't admit that they love you. Like, what is the reason, if they actually do love you, why are they so against accepting and admitting that? Why are they in so much denial about this feeling, okay? And unfortunately, this is incredibly common. I mean, this is incredibly common with avoidance, especially dismissive avoidance. Actually, majority of avoidants take very long to admit they have feelings for somebody. Not all the time, but it is a very, very common trait. You know, I tell you where traits are not that common. I made a video recently about avoidance and cheating, and I mentioned it's not as common as a lot of people think. This one is actually common. Like, a lot of people think it's common, and y'all are right. This is really common, okay? So why does this happen? Well, the very first reason why this can happen, and this is a bit strange, it's kind of in their own psychology. It's a defense mechanism, actually. But it's a form of anxiety, actually. They feel like admitting it will bring attention to it and ruin it. I think a lot of people can relate to this, but typically, people who relate to this typically are more in their youth or they're younger. But avoidant individuals, they have this perspective of relationships because they're very afraid of the outcome of relationships. So it's a little bit different than those who are a little bit younger and have a bit of a fairy tale-like perspective of relationships. It's not necessarily that, but it does come from the same line of thinking. They almost feel like relationships are delicate and they're unpredictable and they're dangerous. And so in their mind, they feel like, okay, if I poke at it too much, I'm going to ruin it. It needs to heal on its own. It needs to grow on its own. I can't do anything about it. And so this, unfortunately, is a lot of times why avoidants don't always put effort into relationships, because they feel like a perfect relationship shouldn't need effort. It should just naturally look like love. And if it's not enough. And so a lot of avoidants may not know or understand that that perception is not healthy and it's actually not true, right? And so that could be why they don't want to admit love. Actually, it's not could be why. This is really common why. Because they feel like if they say, I do love you, now suddenly it's almost like they jinx it, which is obviously an abnormal thought. And it is a very anxious thought. And that doesn't mean avoidant individuals are anxious in a relationship. It doesn't mean they're anxiously attached. A lot of avoidant individuals have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder or depression. And I'm picky with my diagnostic impressions. I'm psychodynamic, but we do need to put a diagnosis in a person's medical file in order for it to be reimbursed by insurance. So I always will diagnose a patient, but I never just throw my diagnoses just out there, right? I take my time with it, and a lot of avoidants are pretty anxious about aspects of life, and they have some of that negative, sometimes magical thinking, or the perception that life is more controllable than it truly is. And sometimes it's because of their lack of experience in relationships, to be honest. And so that is the first one, where they feel like if they say they love you and they use that word, it might ruin it, okay? Now everything's downhill, very negative, okay? The next one is they fear that you will take advantage of their love and hold it against them someday. So because you know they love them, because you know they love you, you might be able to manipulate them more easily. You might be able to hold it against them and say, oh, I cheated on you and you still loved me, or you still stayed even though I was cheating on you the whole time, right? They're afraid of that. And it's, again, a negative thought, but truly this is what they're afraid of. But if they don't tell you, you can't say that. You can't believe that. You can't know that. And a lot of this is subconscious. They're not doing it on purpose. Most of it is not on purpose. Almost all of the time it's not. And so their fear of love and being taken advantage of and loss of autonomy is so powerful, it's suppressed within their subconscious, right? And that's majority of where our thoughts and behaviors come from anyways. And it comes from the wounds that they had as a child, neglect, right? And so that's one of the reasons. The other one is if they actually admit to themselves, again, defense mechanisms, that they do love you and that maybe you love them and you accept them, they have to also admit that they could lose you, and they will lose you at some point one day. Even if you guys are together forever, someone's going to pass away, right? And so they have to admit that they can lose you, and that highlights it to their mind. If they live in denial that they don't love you, they can deny and deny and deny, and they can at least in their mind feel like, okay, it doesn't matter if this goes away or I lose this person because it's not going to hurt. It will, right? When they get hit with it in reality, it's going to hurt the same because the love is there, but they can tell themselves it doesn't, which makes it easier to feel less anxious or uncomfortable about the relationship, okay? The next one, is when they admit that they love you, it opens them up to rejection. What if you don't love them? What if you love them and you take it back? What if you love them and you cheat on them, or you fall in love with someone else, or you fall out of love with them? those possibilities start showing up more and more prominently if they tell you they love you. That can't happen if they don't love you. You can't say, oh, I don't love you either, because they never told you, right? And so that's something to think about. The next one is they feel like, this is really common, they feel like if they admit that they love you too quickly, then they open the possibility of recognizing they chose wrong if the relationship fails, and that they lose trust in themselves. This is very specific to people who have trust, who struggle with trusting relationships. So it's very common with avoidant individuals in general, very common, okay? If they lose trust in themselves, the person that they've always had, right? The person who had their back ever since they were a kid, ever since they were a baby, who can they trust in this world? Life becomes more bleak. It becomes more bitter. It becomes more scary. And avoidants don't like the uncertainty of life in general. It's why they're so specific. That's why some of them are really controlling. They don't like to have to see that they failed, and they have to get themselves back up and regain that trust, because that's why they're so afraid of love. They don't even know how to navigate it, because when they were younger, a lot of the feelings that are important to express love, they were told not to show those feelings. So they already know subconsciously and some consciously they have a disadvantage at love. Sometimes they feel like that, right? And so if they chose wrong and the relationship failed and they said they love you, they're going to think, do I know what love is? Do I love people who hurt me? Do I love people who fail me? Do I love people who are emotionally unstable? Is there something wrong with me? What do? I really don't know what love is. And that's going to make them feel even more repulsed and afraid of love. And so they don't want to put themselves in that hole. And so they take a little bit longer, not a little bit, a lot longer, to admit that they love somebody. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. They just need a lot more time to really vet out these possibilities as much as possible, because it's not possible to predict, but they're trying their best, okay? The next one is they don't want to bring up your hopes and disappoint you later. Maybe they're afraid that they won't be able to, they can't control their feelings. They have fears. What if you have hopes and then maybe you wanted something more and they couldn't give you that right away? Or you have hopes that the love is deeper than it is. Or maybe they're afraid to admit that they don't know how to express it. Or they see that the way you express love is way more than they are, and your hopes are high and now they were shot. Or maybe they feel like they don't love you as much and they disappointed you. That's not true. These are all negative thoughts. And it's usually when people who are avoidant, they're really unhealed. But this is something that comes up a lot. And something, the last one is very similar, but it's not really about hopes. It's more about expectations. So I think the first one was, a more positive, loving perspective. The next one is still a positive and loving perspective, but it's a little bit more like they have a negative perspective of your expectations, right? So they don't want your expectations to increase because they love you. So sometimes this one is conscious. I know that's not good, but sometimes it is, because if they tell you that they love you, now you're going to expect them to, go to be the plus one at a wedding, or do something on Valentine's Day, or get married in X amount of years. And so they're afraid of that pressure. And so they're preparing for that pressure to not happen by basically not admitting they love you, okay? This is not, I'm just telling you what it is. There are lots of other reasons, but these are some of the reasons, okay? So I hope this video makes sense. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to go over a topic that was requested a week ago. Can't remember when, but it was requested also like months ago. So many people have been requesting this, and I've been busy, but I didn't forget. A lot of you guys are also new here, and I made a video like this before, but I wanted to make a more updated one with a little bit more details. Why do avoidants offer friendship when, in fact, they actually love you? But they're offering friendship, which is very confusing, right? And I get that, okay? Before we get into that, there's a couple things I want to talk about, and then we'll get into some of it, okay? The first one is I plan on posting this on Thanksgiving. Hopefully I remember. This video is the Thanksgiving video. I hope that I remember. Hopefully you're seeing it on Thanksgiving. And so if you do, I'm not going to be in the comments section very much because I am having Thanksgiving. And I wanted to actually ask you what you guys are doing for Thanksgiving. You don't have to share, but personally, I feel that a lot of individuals, at least on my caseload, as a therapist, a lot of folks, unfortunately, are not doing much for Thanksgiving because a lot of people have trauma. They don't have family that they trust. They're not in a relationship to which they feel safe enough to have Thanksgiving. So I'm just curious what you guys are doing. I hope that you guys are doing something, but if not, that's okay. I just hope that you're happy. You have time for yourself. Hope that you're off work, but if not, I hope that it's a nice day for you. For me, what I'm doing is it's just me and my partner. I'm cooking for us. A lot of you guys know I love to cook. I'm just doing something kind of basic, but for me, it's very enjoyable. It's very relaxing. I'm going to make like a ham, macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes. I'm probably going to do he likes a sweet potato casserole with the little mini marshmallows, so I'll do that. I'll do cornbread, but I'll do like cornbread muffins instead, and I might do biscuits, homemade cranberry sauce, and maybe some other things thrown in there. But I sometimes like to make more than we're going to eat because I like to have leftovers so I can make like sandwiches or something like that, and he'll eat it. So that's kind of my plan. I do hope that you guys have a good Thanksgiving. So let's go ahead and jump right in, okay? Why do avoidants sometimes offer friendship when in fact they still love you? I'm going to mention that not every avoidant does this, okay? Doesn't mean that if you guys are in a relationship or married that suddenly one day they're going to say, hey, let's just be friends. That may happen, but it usually happens when an avoidant is in the earlier stages of the relationship, but also earlier stages of their healing, okay? Why do they do it? Because they still, in short, because they love you, so they want you in their life, but they want it on their terms without the pressure, which is why they call it friendship, even though it likely will still be romantic. It's just called friendship, okay? So that is the main reason why they do it, but there are variables within this perspective, okay? So the first one is their control issues, okay? Avoidance in general, they like to, you guys know this, dictate the pace of the relationship. That means it's usually on their terms. Even if it's romantic, even if you guys are married, usually it's their way, okay? And so they often prefer things to be on their timeline. And often what happens is if you are pushing so heavily for your timeline, they might shut down and turn it into, okay, let's be friends. Because they're like, okay, the reason this person is trying to take over the timeline, someplace I'm very uncomfortable with, let's just say from their perspective, is because we have a romantic relationship. If I turned it into friendship, they'll stop asking and then I can do it on my terms. It's not healthy. It's very selfish, but it's how they are programmed because in their mind, they think me, myself, and I got to look out for myself. That's how they perceive it, okay? The next one is fear of disappointment. If the relationship is boyfriend and girlfriend, I love you, I'm married to you, whatever it is, they feel like you will have expectations and they are more likely to disappoint you. And so by offering friendship, they can't disappoint you because they know they feel more than friends for you. So there's no way that they could disappoint that because they're friends plus more. That's how they perceive it like, okay? And so sometimes what can kind of offset this is if you do feel like your expectations are too high based on their perspective, right? It's a perspective. You may actually communicate maybe lower expectations and appreciate them for who they are. This might help offset that, just giving you that. The next one is they might want to protect their bond. There is a side, more common with female avoidance, but in general, there is a side where avoidance might not feel like the relationship is healthy. And this happens. It's sad and it does happen. And when this happens, they still love you. And maybe it's because you're doing things that's not healthy and they are not sure what to do. Maybe they're doing things and they don't know what to do, but they are worried to lose you. And so what happens is sometimes they feel like if the relationship fails, maybe they can still be with you. So sometimes what can happen is they might not even be romantic with you, but they still do things that are romantic, but they call it a friendship. This is more common where it's like they're really afraid to lose you or they're afraid that the relationship might not be healthy. And if that's their fear, that's not anything to do with you. It might, but it's more likely because they feel like in general, they feel like a lot of relationships are unhealthy and they're afraid that they'll lose you to that possibility. It's more like that, okay? And so what can end up happening is you can reassure them that you're working on yourself, you're managing yourself, or you can say like, you can open up to me. If there's something that I'm doing you don't like, tell me that. And so that you can help them to navigate those fears, but also you can reassure them that I'm never gonna I'm never going to be negative towards you. I'm never going to hate you, no matter what happens, right? Saying something along those lines can really help them to feel like they don't need to protect this bond so strongly, okay? The next one is external pressure, a barrier that can be really pronounced, can be like work. If they're busy at work, they can't necessarily offer as much as they want to, and they don't want to call it a relationship if they're not fully in it because of their work pressure. And so they call it a friendship, but they're still hoping that at one point it will be romantic. Sometimes what can also happen is if there's pressure where they feel like they're not allowed to love you. Maybe you guys are colleagues, or maybe you guys are long distance and they feel like it won't work. Even though they do love you and they do like you, but they feel like they won't have enough time. Let's say you're in California and they're in North Carolina. They feel like it's not going to work because there's too much distance. And they feel like they could lose you. And that pressure, that external pressure of that distance might make them feel like that's a barrier. And so you can mention, if that's something you think is what's going on, that you feel like you can make it work. You're okay with traveling some of the time. You're okay if you guys need to communicate a little less, kind of making it work so they can figure out what's going on and what's bothering them. And the last one is actually self-doubt. Avoidants strongly doubt their capacity in romantic relationships, just genuinely. They feel that they don't have what it takes, which is a very negative way to put it. But part of it's true. They do struggle with a lot of attributes that you need to have a healthy relationship. People with insecure attachment does, but a lot of things that avoidants do can sabotage it even more severely than other attachment styles. This is just true. It's okay, right? And so for that reason, particularly, they know that they've had some experiences, they lost those people, and they are trying to navigate their life so they don't hurt other people or hurt themselves. And so they're afraid they won't be able to give you what you want and they'll lose you. And so sometimes providing reassurance and highlighting their positive traits may help them to alleviate those doubts, okay? So let's go ahead and summarize why avoidants offer friendship when they love you. Control issues, fear of disappointment, protecting the bond, external pressure, and self-doubt, okay? I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. I hope that you guys have a good Thanksgiving. I hope I remember to post this on Thanksgiving. See you guys tomorrow. Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to go over how to get out of the avoidance friend zone. We're going to talk about each of the factors of why you're in the friend zone, and then particularly how to address that particular issue. Because I don't know the reason that you're in the friend zone, but it's usually one of these 5 reasons. And whichever one fits your criteria, use that particular I want to say intervention, but I shouldn't say that because this is not therapy. It's not therapy. It's just a video I'm making. Use that particular, correspondent behavior to whatever the issue is, okay? This video might be a little bit more rushed because I have some stuff to do, and also my partner wants like M&M cookies or whatever, so I'm going to make that, and then I just have some stuff to do, okay? I've been procrastinating these M&M cookies like all day, and it's so easy because it's like it takes like literally less than 10 minutes. But I don't know why. I just don't want to. I'm just procrastinating. I think it's partly because like my nails are like long, and it's okay. I'll make those M&M cookies. Just let me do this first. I'm just procrastinating a little. Let me. You know what I mean? Okay. So the first reason this happens is the avoidant has control issues. A lot of them do. That's okay. A lot of avoidants tend to prefer to dictate the pace of the relationship, okay? And so to address this, if this is the issue, you want to reciprocate their expressions, whatever they may be, and then gradually prompt for more closeness. So an example of prompting for more closeness could be, let's say you guys are in the friend zone or whatever, even though it's somehow romantic, but they're calling you a friend. You might say, I really liked when we hung out yesterday. Next time, do you think you could stay a little bit longer? Just gradually. Could mention, I have this, wedding coming up, and I know that we do a lot of things together. Do you want to be my plus one? Right? Depending on how close you guys are, or wherever you guys want to lean this to, gradually. You tell them, do you want to, right? So it still puts them in that control, but you're still prompting them, okay? The next one is fear of disappointment. Really, really common, okay? This is a little bit more common with fear. I don't know. I see with both fearful. The first one is more common with dismissive avoidance. This one might be more common with both. I wanted to say it's more common with fearful, but I don't think it is fearful avoidance. I see it with both. Basically, they are afraid of disappointing you because they feel that relationships tend to come with high expectations, okay? And so it's possible that you might be perceived as someone who has high expectations from their perspective. Remember, they tend to have low expectations. And so by adjusting those expectations and communicating them out loud can actually help to transition to romance. I'll explain that, okay? Basically, you want to communicate any low expectations or your expectations that you have. You might say, I do like this, but I don't mind if it's just like this, whatever that variable is. You might appreciate them as they are. I really appreciate our connection. I really love having you in my life. I really like to be with you. I like to talk to you. Whatever it is, that allows them to feel like it's a little bit more comfortable with realizing your expectations are actually not as high as they thought it was. It's not that scary. If they fail you, you're going to be fine with it. You can even mention, even if this never happens, I'm okay with that because I appreciate you. Whatever that may be, to show them that you're not going to just come down on them and tell them they're a failure, okay? You're going to appreciate who they are. And if they can't meet up to your expectations, you're okay with them trying again, whatever it may be, okay? The next one is protecting the bond. This is much more common in female avoidance, okay? They often worry about losing someone entirely if the relationship fails, okay? Basically, they feel like if you guys break up, that you're going to hate them, is truly the depth of their fear. You can reassure them that the friendship will remain intact if that's what you want, if a romantic relationship develops, or you can say something, if you don't want the friendship intact, you can say, I never hold grudges. I never have an ill intention towards anyone. Regardless of if a romantic relationship ends, I will always see a person in a positive way, at least to some extent, because I know that they added something to my life. When you say things like that, particularly for female avoidance, they feel much more comfortable being more open to the idea of having a romantic relationship with you. And sometimes what happens is, if it's a fearful avoidant more particularly, they actually might be afraid that you will make fun of them for wanting to be with you. Maybe they don't know that you like them. And so sometimes that means that you're going to have to be a little bit more obvious. It really depends on your relationship and who this person is. But sometimes what I see is a female fearful avoidant. She likes somebody, but she's like very paralyzed about what to do with that. And then you might not want to suffocate her or might not want to make her uncomfortable, so you don't make it obvious. If you see that when you prompt more romantic type of things between you guys, if she responds positively or well, you might want to ramp that up just a little bit to see what comes out of that. I think that may help, okay? The next one is external pressure. Very common with dismissive avoidance particularly. This barrier is much more pronounced if this external pressure is things they can't control, like work, okay? Often if you guys are romantically involved, they feel like it's more likely that they won't have enough time to show you that they can be the person for you. And so that's more likely they're going to fail if their mindset is off into different directions, okay? And so often what they're trying to avoid is failing you. And so this external pressure is dividing their attention. So you might be in the friend zone only temporarily because they're busy with other things. And so they're just they want to be with you, but they're not ready to right away, but they're planning on to. And so what you can do with this is you can discuss these perceived issues openly together. Let them open up and talk to you about it. You can even ask them about it, and you can say, while doing so, you like how you both are. You like connecting. You don't mind if they're not always available emotionally because you still feel like they're there and they're trying their best. You can establish how you both can navigate this together. If you openly had mentioned you want a romantic relationship, but they say there's too much things at work, you can say, can we at least try X, Y, and Z? So maybe you can say, can we at least try to commit to seeing each other? You don't have to use the word commit, but you can say, can we at least try to see each other a little bit more often? Can we talk a little bit more? Whatever it is. And if they're more open to that, that can gradually help them to feel more safer and then prompt them out of the friend zone, okay? And the last one, this one is probably just common in general among all avoidance across the board, regardless of gender, regardless of what type, it's self-doubt, okay? They may doubt their capability to have romantic relationships. This one is probably the most common, but I feel like it's the most easiest to get out of, okay? providing reassurance and highlighting their positive traits can quite literally alleviate these doubts and help them transition out of the friend zone. It sounds very simple, and I think that's because it is. All you have to do is mention, I appreciate that you do this, and continuously do that. Doesn't have to be a lot of frequency, but be genuine about it, right? I appreciate that you are a good person. You are a good person, like a shoulder to cry on. A lot of avoidants think I'm not that good at comforting. You can say you're very good at comforting, at least to me. You make me feel the most comfortable in the world, whatever it is, okay? So let's go ahead and summarize, okay? We're going to talk about the issue and then how to get out of it really quickly, okay? The issue is a control issue. To address it, you want to reciprocate their expressions and then prompt for more closeness. Their fear of disappointment is the next one. Communicate your low expectations or whatever your expectations are and appreciate them for who they are. The barrier is they want to protect the bond. Reassure them that the friendship will not be lost if you guys break up or that you won't have any malice towards them. The next one is external pressures. Have a conversation about it. Establish how you guys can navigate together in the middle to still let them do whatever they're doing with their pressures, but still have some connection towards you. And the last one is self-doubt. And to summarize that, reassure them that they're good at what they're trying to do, okay? So these are ways to get out of the avoidance friend zone. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.
So we've discussed why they friend zone an individual that they love and why they're uncomfortable with labels. So why don't we actually talk about kind of the reason why this is on Valentine's Day? Why do they avoid holidays, which includes Valentine's Day? What's going on with them to make them feel so uncomfortable with the idea of doing something celebrative towards their loved one?
Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Let's talk about a video that I promised you guys I would do before Thanksgiving. I'm recording this on the first week of November. I don't know when y'all are going to get it, but I promise I will post it before Thanksgiving. So hopefully soon. Why do avoidants avoid holidays with you? And what can you do instead so that they stop doing that? That's a topic for today. And yes, I will make another one closer to Christmas as well as gift giving. Don't worry, those are in the works as well. Haven't recorded it yet, but I will record it and it will be posted before that holiday, okay? So let's first talk about why they do it, okay? Then we're going to talk about what to do instead. It feels like an expectation that basically makes them feel like the day is special and it has to be special, and that creates a higher risk of failure. So Thanksgiving is the one that's coming up, so let's use Thanksgiving, okay? Thanksgiving is a holiday where you guys cook together, pray together if that's your thing, right? Whatever you guys are doing, Thanksgiving is a lot of that. Sometimes there's a little bit of vulnerability. Some families drink. Some families play games. Some families watch TV together. And so it doesn't even have to be family. Let's just say it's you and this person, right? Those expectations might show a lot more vulnerability about maybe their lack of composure on these certain things, maybe who they are. Maybe it invites you in to expect more from them, right? Maybe they have to be on their best behavior. Maybe they have to dress a certain way. They got to wear like that button-up shirt that matches your dress. And that's fine. You want to take pictures. And so these expectations are adding up to which they feel like, oh, what if I don't know how to smile in a picture? She's going to get mad at me. Or what if I don't know how to cook whatever, he's gonna be disappointed? Or what if I don't know what's on TV or what to do at this time? Or maybe they didn't grow up with a family that did holidays, so now they're like, what do I cook? What should I make? Should we do a ham or should we do a chicken because it's just me and you? Or should I do a whole turkey and like break it up? Whatever it is, they're afraid of these things. And all of these thoughts are things that you didn't even instill in their mind, but they in fact are worried about it, right? And so there are so many ways they could fail. They could fail by cooking. They could fail by what they're wearing. They could fail by their mood. What if they're not in a good mood and it's Thanksgiving? They have to be happy. So many ways they could fail. So that's one of the first reasons they avoid holidays with you, because you matter. If it's like a Friendsgiving, they don't care about those things. They don't care if they disappoint that person. Sorry to say, it's true. But it matters. I'm not saying that you should let them avoid the holidays, but I'm just telling you what it is, okay? The next one is, I know a lot of you guys are like this. It's okay. You really like the holidays. And because you really like them, the pressure is really high. And they don't want to disappoint you or upset you if they don't do it right, okay? I've talked about like the pedestal type of thing. This is not the same thing, but I've talked about like my thing is when I struggled with this attachment style, like of myself, I had, a lot of people would put me or anybody who's an avoidant on a pedestal. And like, I didn't like that feeling, because being put on a pedestal means that if I don't do something a certain way, at one point you're going to yell at me, or it's going to crash down, or whatever it is. And nobody likes being put on a pedestal. Okay. That's that kind of pressure. Similarly, if you really, really, really like something, it feels kind of like that. Cause it's like, I really, really like this. So if you don't do this, I'm going to be really upset. I'm going to be disappointed. Fine, fair enough. But it's also like, if you don't do it the way I want to, this is that maybe you're not even doing this, but this is what it feels like. It's the same thing with a pedestal. If you don't do something the way I like it or want to, I'm going to get really mad and really angry. I might even get really nasty. I'm not saying you will. That's how it feels. And so that is very scary. It's a lot of pressure. And so it's like, okay, I know I'm going to make you mad if I say no, but I know I'm going to make you even more mad if I try and I fail. And so that is why a lot of avoidants might not like the holidays. So this one's kind of easy. Just put your foot off the gas about holidays. Usually they might lean in eventually, okay, to fix. But we'll talk about that later. The next one is holidays. This one is actually huge. I don't think a lot of people realize this. I would say this one is one of the most significant ones. It's going to sound silly, okay? And this might be more specific to the United States. But holidays here in the United States, they're usually a time where stores are closed or not open throughout the whole day. A lot of folks are off work. A lot of people aren't working. And so it's like a perfect alone day. It's a perfect day to decompress, and they don't want to give that up. They don't want to give away their autonomy. They planned on doing, just watching football, whatever it is. They don't want to do Thanksgiving. They want to do this. And so it's their my way or the highway thing that's just clashing with yours. You want holidays. They want to sit at home without anybody, not just you, but anybody, just by themselves. They don't want to eat all that food. They want to eat their food, whatever they want to eat. Maybe they just want to have cereal for dinner. That's what they want that day. And they don't want to change their schedule or do something new just for the holidays, right? That's kind of the clash, which has nothing to do with you. And we're going to talk about how to adjust that eventually, because that's about compromising, right? But they felt like this is that perfect day. No one can bother me. And they're just by themselves. That's how they feel, okay? And the next one is, if they do holiday one year, you'll expect it every year. And that means that they have to lock into this relationship, or that means they're set up to fail. What if one year they don't want to? Are you going to get really mad, even more mad? Should they just never go to holidays because of that? And so it almost feels like they have to continuously do that. So their mind is they have to commit to holidays this year, but also every year after. That's how they feel. So those are 4 of the reasons why avoidants avoid holidays with you. Okay. So what to do instead to make holidays a little bit easier for both of you guys. Okay. The first one is make it known you want to spend holidays together. Okay. And maybe that's enough. Maybe because you said, I want to spend holidays, they do that. But sometimes they don't. And so what happens if they can't? If they can't, express disappointment in an honest and genuine way. You don't have to crash out. Just explain how you feel honestly. Your feelings do make a difference, and it's going to make a difference in the long run, okay? That's very important. A lot of you guys don't want to express your disappointment. That's not going to be healthy. You have to show your feelings because they have to get better at tolerating them. Avoidant attachment, you don't have to placate that. Same with your attachment style. We're trying to heal together, right? You guys want to become more secure. You have to show your feelings in order for them to be more comfortable with them, okay? Like I said, you don't have to crash out because that might be a little overwhelming, but you have to express them in an honest and genuine way, okay? The next one is you want to express an alternative way if they genuinely cannot make that adjustment or don't want to because they're stubborn. A lot of avoidants are stubborn. Let's be honest, okay? Typically, the best way to make an alternative that works, usually, this one's pretty surefire. It doesn't work for every avoidant, but for as long as I've been practicing, this one almost always works, okay? Typically, celebrate the holiday on a different day than the actual holiday. So, Thanksgiving, Thursday, right? The Thursday that's coming up in a couple weeks when I'm recording this. I don't know when I'm going to submit it, but it's in a couple weeks from now, okay? That Monday. If you guys have Thanksgiving on that Monday or Tuesday instead of Thursday, they're more likely to do it. Why? Because it's not a special specific day. It's not pressured. They still get Thursday to relax. They don't have to do anything. However, what you can do to make that compromise is you can also say, I don't want you to go to any other celebration for Thanksgiving. We're going to have Thanksgiving on Monday, and on Thursday, neither of us are going to do anything for Thanksgiving. So it still makes it a little bit special, but it's not as pressure as on that day. Usually this works, and then what ends up happening is the 4th step, okay? Once they get comfortable doing that, remember, with avoidance, it's a long game. Just being honest, okay? Reintroduce that idea of doing it on the actual day, the actual Thursday, okay? Let's just say right now, year 2025, okay? You guys did it on Monday. Then maybe 2026, you also did it on Monday. 2027, let's reintroduce Thursday. Again, the real Thanksgiving Day, and see what they do. Usually it's more easier for them to commit to it because they already know what a holiday with you looks like because they've done it on Monday. And then as soon as they do that, it pretty much is a lifetime, okay? Because once avoidants commit, they really commit, right? So once they actually do it on Thursday, you're going to be with them Thanksgiving probably for the rest of their life, okay? So let's go ahead and summarize, and then we're going to wrap it up, okay? So why don't they spend holidays with you? The expectation of the special day makes it feel like they're the higher risk to disappoint. You really like holidays and that they don't want to disappoint you. The third one is holidays are usually a very good time for them to have alone time and they don't want to be interrupted. So nothing to do with you. And the last one is if they do holiday one year, they're going to have to do it every year and that makes them feel pressure, okay? So what to do instead? Make it known you want to spend holidays. If they can't do that, express disappointment in an honest and genuine way. You don't have to crash out, but be clear about your feelings. The next one is you want to express that alternative. Typically, it's going to be a different day of the holiday. You celebrate Thanksgiving on a Monday. That was the example you were using. You celebrate Christmas maybe after Christmas holiday, whatever it is, or before, or that week, whatever it is, to set up the comfortability, the comfort of rotating, not even rotating, having that holiday through your life, let's say for 2 or 3 years, right? And then you set it up on the actual holiday. That probably didn't make sense, but we're going to go into the fourth one, okay? The fourth one is once you've introduced that specific holiday and you guys have committed to it on an off day, now you're going to start doing it on the actual day. And then they'll start getting more comfortable with it. With an avoidant, it's usually long term. It's usually a little longer. It takes longer for them to do something that other secure attachment or anxious or sometimes even fearful avoidance, but this is for both fearful and dismissive, they're more comfortable doing. Hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.
We have talked about why avoidants keep you at an arm's length regarding traditional milestones, but I want to actually talk about how they perceive love or how they actually fall in love and the factors that create love.
Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I wanted to go over how avoidants act when they truly fall in love with you. I think there's a misconception about this, and I would like to fill in those gaps or at least help somebody if they are a little confused, okay? This is my perspective as a therapist, and take everything I say with a grain of salt. No matter what, please, every one of my videos, take it with a grain of salt. I am not perfect. I am not the all-seeing. I don't know everything, okay? I'm just sharing what I know or what I think I know in hopes to help somebody. And I also would recommend, at least my perspective, be careful what type of media you're consuming about these topics, especially when you're watching maybe somebody, I don't know who it is, okay? Anybody who acts like they're definitive about certain things they're talking about and they talk about it in a very strong or very concrete cut way. Typically, that may be a sign that you might be watching something that might not actually be helpful, right? If somebody says a black and white type of behavior, avoidants do this, or they're neurologically whatever, just new things people are saying without any education or training, right? Whatever it is, it's okay. I'm not even judging. I'm just saying for your own safety and sake, just be very careful, including with me. Anything I say, take everything in general with a grain of salt. You are smarter than you give yourself credit for typically. And you know your perspective is much more powerful than anything I could say or anything. So just trust yourself. But this is for anyone who wants to fill in those gaps and wants to learn something, and hopefully maybe you will. But if not, on to the next video, whatever you want to do, okay? So how do avoidants act when they truly fall in love with you, okay? Usually, they will have some sort of standard that they expect you to meet, okay? So this is not flaw finding, and I'm going to make a video on flaw finding. Usually they have some sort of expectation. It may feel like they're being harsh with you. That's not usually what it is. They may even communicate saying, I want you to change this particular thing. Now, avoidants are, when they really care about someone, this will show up pretty immediately. No, not immediately, but usually when they get really attached to you, you're going to see that they're having some expectation for you. And you might not like what you hear, but that's their expectation. It might be unreasonable because often it might be perceived as unreasonable, okay? The reason why is this is a form of reliance, okay? And that's why it comes when they love you, okay? They trust you to make that change to some extent, which is why they're sharing it, but it's also their way of showing vulnerability. So then why is the expectation so high? Usually it's because, first of all, it's hard for them to translate how they feel. And second, their needs are usually very different from yours. And so you might think it's a high expectation because it feels like they're asking a lot from you because it's not how you normally operate. I'm going to give an example. Let's say we have an anxious, preoccupied female, and maybe we'll say she also has trauma, right? Maybe she's got PTSD, or maybe she has borderline, put a personality disorder. So she's got a lot of things to work on, and she is actively working on it. That's why I mentioned she might have a diagnostic impression. Doesn't really matter what it is. We could pick anyone, right? But the point is she's actively working on it, okay? And she knows that there's a lot to heal, not just her attachment issues. So this lady that we're talking about, we have to give her credit that she's trying her best in so many ways, okay? That's the main point about this hypothetical woman, okay? And then we have, let's say, a dismissive avoidant male. Maybe he's not actively working on a lot of things. He might be, but still, he's still particularly wanting her to fix certain things. And so this dynamic in of itself can almost be offensive because he's not working on, maybe he's not in therapy or whatever it is, and she is. But yet he's asking more from her even though she's showing up and trying. Now, this is where the dynamic can get very frustrating because then she feels like he's picking on her or trying to make something negative out of her when she knows she's trying her hardest. But let's tunnel in on what he's asking for, okay? He might be asking for, I want you to regulate your emotions better, right? And he might say it in a way that's not even direct. And it's not because he's trying to be mean. He might not know. He might say, go out and exercise more. No, he's not calling you like unattractive. He's not making fun of your body. In this example, he's just saying, hey, do a coping mechanism. That's what I do, right? He might say something like, maybe you should talk to your friends about this. I don't know what it is. I want you to manage your feelings by yourself, or I want you to make decisions by yourself. I don't want to make that decision for you, okay? Why is he saying that? It's not because he's saying there's something wrong with you, okay? When you're actively working on yourself, you're going to therapy or you're healing or watching whatever videos, that's great. But he's not saying for you to get better in all of these ways. He could care less. Not that he doesn't want you to get better, but he likes you for who you are. So that's not the issue. The issue is he wants you to tolerate your own emotions because he knows that that's going to push him away someday. And he doesn't want that, right? That's where the investment is actually coming from. He is saying, I want you to fix these things so that we can have a relationship, a long-term one. So I'm going to give the flip side example so that you guys can understand where it's coming from, okay? Let's say you say, I want you to be more affectionate. Why are you saying that? Are you saying that because you think they're going to end up, I don't know, hurting themselves? Do you think that it means that they're not going to be able to function? Possibly. But the main reason you're saying that is because you're saying, if you're not emotional, I'm afraid it'll affect our relationship. If you're not going to hug me or kiss me, I'm afraid I'll become distant or I'll lean into somebody else, or I'm not going to feel like it's enough. I'm not enough, right? That's exactly why you say this. It's the same thing. It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's that they have a standard because they're saying, I need this if we're going to do this for long term. It's a good thing, even though it doesn't feel good. And I don't even know if that made a lot of sense, but I'm trying because this is one of the most common traits. And I probably should make multiple videos on this because avoidance, when they do this, it's a good thing. It just doesn't feel good. And if you can do whatever they're asking and they can do whatever you're asking, usually that relationship is overall very stable, okay? The next one is they will tolerate you, right? I don't like that word, but I'm just using it because that's usually how they see it. They will tolerate you compared to how they tolerate other people. Okay. There's a lot of questions. So let's do examples. I like examples. Y'all like examples. Let's do it. Okay. Let's say we have an avoidant. Let's say he's, I don't know, 40. Perfect round number, 40. Okay. So he's lived a lot. He's had life, but he's also not so older. He's in his, he has experience, but not so much experience. But let's say he's been out of the dating relationship, whatever, for 5 years, okay? He has not dated in 5 years, and you're in his life. And maybe you had a really tough day, and you're sad, and you want to complain about it, which is normal. You're crying about it, or maybe you're asking him to change certain things, some sort of emotion. And you do that for, let's say, an hour. And he's on the phone and he's listening to you, okay? And then what happens? He might get a little frustrated. He might crash out and say something like, you don't know, how much I tolerate or how much I do for you. I would not do this to anyone. If anybody else talked like that to me, they would be out of my life, right? Of course, that's very, it probably takes you back. You are thinking that he's pulling away, he's rejecting you, he's making fun of you, whatever is your thoughts, right? But that's not what's happening. He probably should have said it nicely. But what he's saying is, I want you to appreciate this is a lot for me. I'm giving you more than I've ever given anyone for years. And it's because I like you. But I just want you to appreciate that. And when he's talking like that, actually what he's asking for is appreciation. So just say, I appreciate you. You don't need to react poorly about it. And then once you realize, keep that in mind too, that that's how he loves you, or she, but this example, we were saying a he, right? This person does these bare minimum things that you perceive as bare minimum, but to them it's not, because they could be fine by themselves, alone, sitting, doing whatever they want to do without you. This man, example, 40 years, he has not been in a relationship for 5 years. If it wasn't for you, he might be like that forever, for the rest of his life, okay? But he decided to take a chance with you because there's something about you that he values, and he does love you. And when he says, when he's listening to you and maybe you're upset and then you feel like he's not giving enough, whatever this dynamic was, right? He is trying to tell you, I wouldn't be here if I didn't want to be. I do tolerate you. I would never let anybody waste my time or talk like this to me. It's only because I love you. That's what they're trying to say, even though it feels very difficult. So be careful with this one, because it really can get lost in life, and it can actually create more issues, because you might take it very poorly, but it actually is a sign that avoidants love you, and they act like this when they love you. I know it sounds bad, but it is true, okay? The next one is not necessarily in high emotional moments, okay? They might be genuinely more softer. They might be more excited to share things with you, typically in a casual setting, side by side. Maybe you guys are talking while walking. Maybe you're playing video games. So it's going to be a side-to-side communication where you'll see this, okay? And I've talked about this before on my channel. They might be more genuinely soft, or they might even come across as a little childish, but very genuine. They're very open to you. And the very last one, which is the most important one, I think you guys need to know this most of the time, not all the time, okay? When an avoidant truly loves you, they try their hardest to stay, even when it's hard. They usually give multiple chances before they decide, I'm going to leave. That's usually how it works, okay? I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Oh, summary. You guys want summaries. Let's summarize it and then we'll wrap it up, okay? The first one is they have standards they expect you to meet. The next one is they tolerate you compared to other people. The third one is they're genuinely more softer and more excited to share things with you. It may come across a little childish. And the fourth one is they tend to stay even when it's hard. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. When I'm working with a lot of avoidants in therapy, particularly with couples, I work with individuals as well, but I do work with couples a little bit more, especially nowadays. There is typically some sort of key or some sort of emphasis on something that can really help avoidants to fall in love or be more aware of their feelings, okay? Now, a lot of people think it's space or absence. And from my experience as a therapist and just understanding these folks, I would not call it space or absence, okay? I think it's of a similar vein, but I don't think that's actually the correct terminology, and I don't think that's actually the correct direction. I don't think it helps fully, and I'm going to explain. It is not space or absence, even though it might feel like that to you, but it's not actually legitimate space or absence. That's like, it can help, but you can still do this without doing that, and I'll explain. It's basically the absence of the high frequency of disagreements. And I know this word might be a little triggering, but this is common in therapy, what avoidants say. It's the absence of emotional neediness. So basically, when you guys are apart, that automatically happens. If you guys broke up, or your space or long distance or whatever, or no contact, whatever the new things are going on, I don't even know, okay? I don't know, okay, y'all? I really don't. Whatever that is, okay? Those things do create that environment, but that in of itself is not the reason. It doesn't mean you guys have to break up for them to know sometimes, but the reason why that happens is because a lot of times when you guys are broken up, what you start doing is you're less needy or emotionally attached to them or dependent. They call it needy, right? And you don't pick as much fights because you're not in each other's space like that anymore, and you're trying to move on. And that's when avoidants may realize they love you, because of that lack of high frequency of disagreements and the lack of emotional dependence upon them. So you can still do that without breaking up. And I think a lot of people do not get that. And part of the reason they don't get that is as soon as you guys get into a relationship again, both fearful avoidants who are leaning anxious and anxious preoccupied, you do that again. You start picking fights again and you become more emotionally dependent again. I'm not picking on you, I'm helping you, right? And so you, in your mind, you think they only like you when you're not there. That's not true. It's just when you're not there, you behave a certain way that fits that criteria that helps them be more safe and comfortable to fall in love. It's more palatable for them to understand. Does that make sense? And so that's the main synopsis of this, okay? And so how can I break that up for you so that we can do it in a more step-by-step, not necessarily step-by-step, but an easier way to approach it so you guys don't have to go through the pain of breaking up with somebody who could very well understand their feelings and you could be more emotionally regulated, okay? Now, let's go ahead and talk about how can we cultivate this dynamic without breaking up the couple. That's the best way to think about this. The very first one is avoid indirect reassurance seeking. Indirect is the main term. You can still ask for reassurance to a low frequency, even medium frequency, right? But I don't want you, well, I don't think it's healthy to ask for indirect reassurance. Let's say you're like, oh, I guess I'm a really needy person. And you just say that. That's indirect instead of saying, do you think I'm needy? Right? It may help to ask directly for the reassurance you're looking for, because what happens is when you ask for indirect reassurance, your partner may have no clue what you're asking for, and they might say, oh yeah, maybe, because they're just trying to figure out, what are you asking, what do you want, what should I say? And then you take that as them saying you are needy, and then you spiral, and then you get mad at them, and now the picking fights is starting to happen, right? And so that is a cycle that happens a lot. So avoid asking indirect reassurance, and also I would say repetitive reassurance in general. Instead, request and express your feelings a couple times clearly, and then trust them to respond if they do, and give them time. And in between some of these reassurance, you can still follow up. I'm not saying you can't follow up, but I am saying being clear about it is the most helpful for you, right? You don't want to lose this relationship, I imagine. Otherwise, why are you watching the video? And so that's the best option for you, okay? The next one is when you're feeling anxious or lonely, sometimes what can help is processing what you're feeling first. Pause before reacting, right? Notice the emotion, name it or verbalize whatever is going on, and then try and process what needs to be done. I'm going to give an example. Let's say we have an anxious, preoccupied female, and she had a really hard day at work. Sometimes what happens is she might want to reach out to her boyfriend and complain or be hurt or cry about whatever happened, which is normal. This is a normal response. If it's a very hard day, that's allowed. But let's say she's doing that every day. I would imagine he's getting overwhelmed and she's getting frustrated because he's not answering the way she wants him to. So what can we do? Try and think about what you're feeling. You had a bad day at work. Maybe your boss is a very difficult boss, very difficult person, and you feel unappreciated. So what you're feeling is, I feel unappreciated by my boss and I'm feeling like I'm not good enough. That's your feeling. And my choice is I can't leave because whatever reason, it's a good job, I get paid well, I like what I do, I just don't like my interactions with my boss. And so finding a way to name that feeling, put it in a little bit more of a solution-oriented fashion, and then you can bring that to your partner. That will make the conversation a little bit more easier. And sometimes you might realize, wait, I don't need to bring this to my partner. Maybe not now. Let me figure it out myself, and then I'll bring it to them. Or I might not have to. Doing that type of technique will really help with these types of relationships. The next one is similar to what we said. We said direct reassurance seeking for the first one. This one is similar. Number 3, express needs clearly and calmly. Saying, I notice we feel disconnected. I feel disconnected when we don't talk much during the week. Could we plan a phone call? That's it. Very clear. How do you feel about that? What's your approach? What's your thoughts? Sometimes adding that end part, how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts? Can help them to feel like they're allowed to make a decision without hurting your feelings, right? The next one is any sort of self-soothing techniques. Add that into your schedule, not even when you're upset. In general, take care of yourself. Take long showers if that helps. Some people, showers can be very soothing, but other people, it can be very triggering. So whatever's best for you. Cooking is a really good option. In general, a lot of avoidants have this to kind of a maladaptive approach, but you can learn from that to some extent. A lot of avoidants have a lot of self-soothing completely within their schedule with their life. That's why they're always really busy. They're covering up their feelings without realizing that that's what's happening. But you can learn from that a little bit. You don't want it too unhealthy, but self-soothing techniques can be very helpful. It can help process emotions and keep you emotionally stable as long as it's not too much. But I hope that made some sense. Examples being cooking. I love cooking. That really helps me. Actually making videos helps me too. Doing my homework and writing my paper dissertation, that actually helps me too. Those are some of my examples. My partner, he likes playing cards. He likes playing or shooting pool. He likes those types of things. Those things are helpful for him. And that can kind of create emotional balance. Like even sometimes when I'm having a stressful day, sometimes I literally just bake something and I don't even want to eat it and I just give it to him. But it helps me just to do that. It makes me feel like I'm in control of what I'm doing. And that's kind of my thing. I like to have some control of what I'm doing. And that helps me to stay calm. Even though we both are not anxious, preoccupied, but still, just an example, okay? The next one is challenge your negative thoughts, okay? Example, your partner didn't text you back and now you're thinking they don't care. Sometimes replace that or give it a little bit more reality. Might say they're probably busy, we're good. Or you might say, if they don't text me back, and go through the path, right? Go through all the way down to the biggest fear, right? If they don't text me back, this means they don't care. And if that means they don't care, they're not worth my time. They don't care about me, or I don't want to stay in a relationship with somebody who's not able to process that. Or you can say, if they don't text me back, we need to have a conversation about my texting expectations and what they're willing to give. And so you can challenge those thoughts in a realistic and rational way instead of reacting entirely emotional to help you manage yourself, okay? The next one is you want to have genuine appreciation and affection for your partner. Appreciate the good things they do, and say it out loud so that you can remember it, so they can feel it, and you can have a more positive connection between y'all. And the last one is have any sort of shared rituals, saying good morning to each other, making each other a cup of coffee, or whatever you guys want to do, right? Taking walks together. Do something that's built into the routine, and so you guys always have that security. Let's summarize, and then we'll wrap it up. Avoid indirect reassurance seeking. Notice and name your emotions. Basically, process your emotions before bringing it to your partner, at least a little bit. Express your needs clearly. Engage in self-soothing techniques in general throughout, not just when you're upset. Challenge your negative thoughts and also process them in a logical way. Share genuine appreciation and affection. And the last one is have shared rituals. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that we have touched on in this channel before. Some of you guys are new, so we're going to touch on it again, but there are other aspects of it that I want to expand upon to kind of help a lot of people alleviate some of that anxiety that some of you feel in these relationships. Being with an avoidant can feel very challenging, very difficult. You feel like you don't know where you stand. You also don't know where the relationship is going. And the things that an avoidant want are some things that you don't want, and the things you want, the avoidant doesn't want. And so it feels really confusing. And part of that is because avoidants sometimes, not all of them, really understand that they love you and that you're the one when they have a particular conflict in their own mind. Not all of them, but it is common. And sometimes that conflict isn't even a negative thing. It's just a feeling that they realize is fundamental to them deciding if they want you and what to do with this relationship. And they might not even tell you this is what's happening, but you might see it in their own life or how they communicate. But you might also look at it from how you are as a person to know if you're the type of person that kind of predicts or creates some of these feelings in your partner, okay? And so they're actually two feelings that conflict between one another, okay? And they actually can overlap as well. So it can be one big feeling that's broken up into two small feelings that actually create a conflict, okay? And these two feelings are the fact that you give them peace, and then also if you leave, they will lose that peace. So peace and loss, but it's still correlated to the peace that you bring, okay? And so it's wanting you versus the fear of losing you, right? You are peace, but you're also, if you leave, you take that peace and relaxation with you. So the value versus loss, okay? And so why is this somewhat conflicting? Because they want you, but they also need to know that if you leave, it'll hurt. And that means they feel a little bit of pain as well. So it's not fully a good emotion. it is overall once it gets resolved, but they need to accept it in order to kind of pass through this difficult time for them. Even though some of them, it's not even that difficult at all. It might take like a second. Other times they have to mull it over. And some of them it's happening in their subconscious. So what constitutes as peace, okay? The first one is quite literally your presence. You just being there next to them, sitting next to them while they're watching football. That counts as presence. You sitting next to them while you guys are at Panera Bread having soup. I don't know, okay? Presence. You guys going to the grocery store and just, I don't know, you're at Publix and you're at the deli counter and you're just trying to get something. You're standing next to each other while waiting on your order. Presence, right? The next one is that you have the ability to take accountability. Just saying that, you know what? I was a little moody that day and I was a little over emotional and I know that's hard for you. So next time I'm going to step back with that and I'm sorry. It'll sometimes happen, but as long as you know I'm working on it, I think that's kind of what we're looking for, right? Some sort of communication. I made a mistake. It's on me, but you don't want to mull into it. Oh my God, I'm such a bad person. I shouldn't have overreacted, whatever it may be, because avoidants take that as, sometimes they may take it as, honestly, they feel bad and they don't want you to be so upset about it. They don't want you to stick on it and just make the negative emotions worse. But also, they're just happy that you took some accountability, right? Anything. You don't need to beat yourself up. Just say, you know what, I messed up, but I'm working on it. Very simple, okay? The next one is low frequency of disagreements, okay? Avoidants really appreciate if there is a low to lower frequency of disagreements. That doesn't mean no disagreements. It means that sometimes you pick your battles. And all relationships have a moment where you have to pick, do I want to fight about this or do I think that I'd rather focus on our picnic tonight? Whatever it is, right? Pick those battles. Sometimes even the timing of the disagreement is important. Let's say I'm recording this in December, and I don't know when you guys are going to see this. You're probably going to see this like second or third week of December. I don't even know, but I'm recording this the first week. Christmas is coming up. During this time, a lot of people, they have to wrap up some of their, whatever they're working on for work for that vacation time. For me, I have to set my patients up in a certain way so that I still am able to go to Florida for Christmas, but I still don't abandon my patients. So I set them up in a way where I can still see them, but I'm still off. And some of them have to, they have their holidays and family, etc. And so it's a stressful time right before the holidays because of that. Understanding that, hey, this is probably not the best time to bring up that you're upset that your partner uses the bathroom with the door open and they don't flush, right? It's annoying. I get it, but probably not the best time. How about we do it in January? Whatever you want to do. That's just an example, because sometimes it might be more of an annoying issue. They don't answer your text message sometimes. Still, you might want to time that so that you guys can have that conversation that's actually more palatable to both of you guys. So, the last one for this particular place of what constitutes as peace is you just being there for a long time. Very similar to presence, but it's more like they're familiar with you. The fact that you guys were in a relationship for 6 years is enough for avoidants to already kind of know that you are the peace for them. Because avoidants, if they don't want you, you're not going to be there. That's the reality. Especially dismissive avoidants, they don't hold on to things that they don't want, okay? And so what constitutes as a fear of loss? The first one is you express what you want in a logical way without ultimatums. This helps them to know what can happen and what you need for them to continue to be in this relationship. Let's say you said, I need you, or I would like if you would be more responsive to text messages. And I want to work on that on my side as well. Do you think that's something that we could do? In their mind, there's a part of them that knows if they just completely stop answering your text messages or they only do it when they want to, they are going to lose you. And they can't lie about that because you communicated that. They can't lie to themselves about it because you directly said, I would like if we could do this, okay? The next one is you provide them space when needed, but you still are providing presence, okay? This depends on the maturity and the length of the relationship. But if they need space, that doesn't mean that you just completely drop off the face of the earth. What it means is you guys have some sort of communication. They might say, I need space about this topic, but you can still text me. Then you can have a conversation. Or they can say, I just, want to watch TV and watch football, whatever it is. That doesn't mean they don't want you next to them. They just probably don't want you to talk about X, Y, and Z, but you can still sit next to them. Whatever depends on your relationship, but you still are not abandoning the relationship because they need space, because that's part of the relationship. The next one is you have your own source of happiness outside of the relationship, just so it doesn't put too much pressure on it, okay? The next one is you accept you and your partner, so both of you guys, the shortcomings that you have without denial. Maybe your partner is, maybe they're impatient. That's that can be an annoying trait, and you know they're impatient, and maybe you want them to work on it, or maybe you don't, but you accept that without denying it. Maybe you know that during that time of the month, you are emotional and you want to watch emotional movies and, I don't know, eat popcorn. I don't know what it is. That's your thing. You know that, and that's your shortcoming. Maybe you think it's a shortcoming, but you're accepting that. Accepting who you guys are so that you don't have to always poke at it and try and make the relationship perfect. Imperfection actually is a fundamental part of relationships because that's part of acceptance and appreciating the other person for who they are, okay? And the next one is acknowledging their efforts. This creates a sense of drive and purpose as well as commitment. And the reason why this constitutes with more loss is because it makes them feel like if you go away, that acknowledgement leaves with you, okay? So let's break this up and summarize it. What constitutes as peace? Your presence, your ability to take accountability, the low frequency of arguments, and you just being there for a long time. What constitutes as a fear of loss? You expressing what you want in a logical way without ultimatums, you providing space while still not abandoning the relationship, you having your own source of happiness outside of the relationship, you accepting your partners and your shortcomings without denial, and the last one is you acknowledge their efforts. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.
Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that a lot of people are bringing up in the comment section in a lot of different ways, and I think there's just a misconception. So there is a kind of scary type of truth that does happen when an avoidant loves you, and it's more common with avoidance, which is why I want to talk about this. It's not as common with anxious, preoccupied, or secure. It can be, but I'm going to talk about it in more detail so you kind of know what I'm talking about. There is an unsettling truth that when an avoidant loves you, you get all of them, right? Both good and bad. But the reason, this is with everybody, but the reason why it can be a bit more unsettling is because with avoidance, there's a lag time. And so it comes out sometimes in year 2, 3, 4, 5. And so for you, you might feel like you don't know this person anymore. And at that point, you might feel like you're not happy because you're seeing a side of them that you're not familiar with at this time. Both fearful avoidance and dismissive avoidance do struggle with this. And you're getting the healthy parts and the unhealthy parts. And I'm not talking about the deactivation strategies. So this video might be triggering and we might discuss topics that are a bit heavier. I'm not giving advice. I'm just sharing information. This is just for educational, psychological purposes. It's nothing more than that. I'm not telling you guys to do these things. I'm not telling you to stay. I'm not telling you to leave. I am just sharing information. That is all. Okay? Behind detachment is more of their personality in their maladaptive coping strategies. That's why it's different. Anxious, preoccupied, and secure individuals do not have a deactivation part of their maladaptive strategies. Some secure do maybe a little bit, but it's very, very far few between, very infrequent, okay? But anxious, preoccupied tends to not have that as much. However, avoidance, both fearful and dismissive, they tend to have a lot of themselves, who they really are, behind a lot of their strategies. And unfortunately, the more love and affection they have towards you, you're going to see what's underneath the detachment. And so you're not going to see a detached, independent individual. You probably will. You're going to see that independence, but you're going to see parts of them that maybe you didn't even necessarily fall in love with, especially if you're an anxious, preoccupied. A lot of you guys might have fallen in love with that cool exterior. And then when you see that part falling down in year 2, 3, and 4, which is one of the avoidance biggest fears, you might not be as attracted to them, or you might see them for more of who they are, to which if you are struggling with limerence or any sort of unhealthy type of connection, to some extent, I know some of you guys really don't think limerence is unhealthy. It might not be, but it's definitely not that foundational love that keeps marriages together. Those behaviors on your side start developing after the avoidant puts their walls down and you start seeing who they are, because you love them for the truth of them, not the idea of who you believe behind that detachment, right? The detachment part means that there's like a mystery, and some people are attracted to that mystery. But when you're attracted to what's behind the detachment, the real love on both of your guys' sides is starting to form. And this is with most relationships. Around this year, 3, 4, 5 is when the deeper love is formed. But with avoidance, it's a little bit more obvious. and it's not as clearly blended because you see a lot of these behaviors. So what are some of these maladaptive strategies so that you know this might be happening in your relationship? It might even be before year 2 or 3. I'm just giving examples of the typical timeline. Anger is a common one, even severe forms. Okay, outbursts, yelling, cursing, breaking things, etc. You might start seeing these things start showing up within the relationship, and you might be a little bit frightened by it, rightfully so. You might not know what to do with it, and also you didn't expect that this is the person that you are with. That's not something that you expected was behind that wall, but it was. And I think that's what can be scary, because now you have to realize a lot of the deactivation strategies might not be as obvious now, but now there's other issues to work on. And so it feels frustrating for you because maybe you did work on some of the attachment issues, but that's not the end of the road. There's so many other things that's going on too, which come from their attachment issues, but you have to sometimes treat these things first. And I'm not saying you guys are going to treat them, but I'm saying that it's kind of like a back and forth. You're going to understand their detachment issues prior, the ones that are really causing a wall for you to get close to them. But then the second layer is going to be some of these behaviors, anger as an example. And then the layer underneath that is them letting go of control. Typically, that's some of the ways that this works. And you're going to be part of that journey as well because you're their husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever you are, right? The next one is any sort of use disorders. You guys know what use disorders are, I hope. Otherwise, you can Google it. I'm not going to touch too much into that, but that's very common. The next one is how controlling they are. We might have to stop here for a little bit longer, depending on how much time I have today. But most avoidants are controlling. They just are. Fearful and dismissive. Actually, anxious, preoccupied can be controlling as well. But particularly, the way dismissive avoidants are and fearful avoidants are controlling, it is not just with their relationships, right? Anxious, preoccupied, they tend to be controlling with their relationships more particularly. This is different, especially for dismissive avoidance, but fearful as well. They are controlling in general, how their environment is, where particular things go, what time they have dinner. And this is very embarrassing because this is something I used to be like a lot. And so I might have a very specific, maybe anger towards this. When you change something, you're very much against this behavior because that's who you used to be. I was like this. I still am to some extent, but I was like this, to the point where it's part of the reason that pushed people away, right? Everything was always the way I saw it. I didn't even realize how severe it was until I realized nobody was really like that around me except other avoidants. But mainly I just saw myself always controlling and calling the shots. And it's because I didn't trust anybody, and I trusted myself, and I always had my own back. So if I have my own back, I can't always even trust my environment unless I put my grubby little hands on it and fix it my way, right? That's the way it feels like, right? The environment has to be the way I put it. The cup's got to be where I see it, right? This time's got to be there. You got to leave my house at this time because after this time, I have decompression time. And before that, I have to have dinner or my snack or whatever it is. So it's all my way because that's what I thought was the way you're strong. That's the way I thought you're supposed to operate. And a lot of avoidants are like that. And we're going to touch on the details of that just about next, the details of controlling behaviors, because that's going to be something you guys are going to bump into. Eating rituals. These are more common with female avoidance, but males do it too, just not as extreme. Whereas females, it might be a little bit more disordered. Not all of them are like that, but some of them might be. But male avoidance and some females who don't have the disordered issues, they might still have rituals like, I'm going to eat at this time, not because they're necessarily obsessing over their food, but because it's part of their structure. Dinner is this time. I'm going to eat at this time. I'm going to take a walk after this. It's very controlled. And this shuts a lot of people out because that means their visitors cannot overstay because they have, something that they want to do, which is their ritual, okay? The next one is controlled sleeping habits. I actually see this more common with fearful avoidance. But, I see this less common with fearful. Well, no, it's different. How do I even explain this? Okay. With fearful avoidance, they actually have, because they have more trauma, they have more struggles with sleep. So they might still want a sleeping ritual, but they can't stick to it. That's probably the best way to put it. dismissive avoidance and fearful avoidance both have the sleeping rituals. Sometimes fearful avoidance have an even more desire of it because they're struggling with it. But because fearful avoidance have more trauma, they tend to have a harder time sticking to this. So they might sleep in. They might wake up multiple times in the day because some of them have a lot of other struggles. PTSD, CPTSD, so that's complex. That's not even diagnosable in the United States, but I do see a difference. So I don't mind referring to that. But anything, it doesn't have to be any of those things. It might be flashbacks from another issue. It might be any sort of dissociation. In general, sleeping habits is something that a lot of avoidants like to control, but fearful avoidants just have a harder time controlling it because some of them also have insomnia, etc. Some dismissive avoidants as well, but more common with fearful. The next one is controlled timing. Exact time for dinner, when they take a shower, when they get up from their sleep, when you leave their house, when they're done with their walk, what time they have to start this meeting, what time they have to stop their meeting, what time they have to do their homework, what time they have to stop their homework, whatever it is, very controlled timing. And it's very hard to let somebody in when you have controlled timing based around your preferences only, right? So this is where you start seeing these issues because as they love you, they start becoming more of who they are, and you're going to start seeing them do these things. A really common one is if you guys don't live together, they might kick you out of their house like right before dinner time or shower time or whatever it is, not because they don't like you, because things need to be on their own time, which can be really frustrating. The next one is impatience, more common with male avoidance. And this is another way of control and anger, because anger, some part of anger is control as well. Impatience with traffic, because remember, they're timing, right? Traffic. It might be impatience with, let's say, the plumber is supposed to come to their house. Very impatient, even though, let's say the time the plumber said is from 10 to 12. And maybe it's close to 12. It hasn't been noon yet. And the avoidant is like getting really, really frustrated because they're like, oh, maybe it's going to be afternoon. I had this planned at this time. This is so frustrating. Or maybe it's like, maybe they need to get their HVAC replaced. And those things take a long time, like the whole day. And they're really upset because they wanted it done by like 5 p.m. And maybe it's summertime and it's still really hot in the house. And they're really angry, but they can't leave their house because there are people there. So they're just, impatience is boiling over, okay? And the last one is you're going to start seeing them have more negative thoughts about the world, more common with fearful avoidance. They might have thoughts like everybody cheats, everybody leaves, everybody hurts, everyone's going to hurt me, we're going to hurt each other. And sometimes this is why some fearful avoidants are more comfortable cheating on others. I'm not saying this is right, but a lot of them, as I've told you, sometimes they were born out of, let's say, a man and his mistress. Like that's their parent, the mistress, and the husband who was never actually the husband of their parent. And so they come from like a broken home, whereas they were like the secret family. A lot of fearful avoidance, that's their story, right? Or their parent might have been what is the right word for it that I can say on set, like without censoring it, like an intimate worker, maybe. I hope you know what I mean, where that's what their mother was and they don't know who their father is, and maybe it was like a cheating situation. So some fearful avoidants feel like cheating is the norm, and that's why they might be more comfortable cheating as well, because I'm not saying that all of you guys do that. I know some of you guys are fearful avoidants, but it's harder for them to realize that that's not healthy in love because they grew up seeing it all the time. And then some fearful avoidants, they have negative thoughts about the world because they have done these things themselves. They've experienced a lot of these things in their life, whereas dismissive avoidants, they were more raised in a still not necessarily a chaotic environment, but a very strict environment. And so dismissive avoidants don't have such a negative thought about the world. They may have a negative thought about relationships, but not the world necessarily. With fearful avoidants, they think the whole world, love is just, fake, or no one really loves anyone, or everyone's going to leave. A lot of these negative thoughts, and you might start seeing that translated onto you, okay? So let's summarize some of the scary behaviors or unique behaviors that come up when an avoidant loves you: anger, use disorders, how controlling they are in general, eating rituals, sleeping habits, controlled timing, impatience, and negative thoughts. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully this video adds clarification to anyone who is curious about the reality of the way that avoidants actually show love. That was my aim. You guys can look back at this anytime you need that clarification. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe, and I hope you guys have a good Valentine's Day. I'll see you tomorrow.